Hello, Nathan Wolf here again with the Bug Whisperer.
Hi.
Hello. Today we're going to show how to use the spell editor to create a brand new spell. I am going to have Bug Whisperer drive this while I kind of walk her through it, and hopefully by teaching her how to use it, we'll teach everybody watching. So hopefully you watched our intro video and you know that Magic is extremely customizable. One way to customize it is by editing a bunch of config files, but more recently we have this cool thing that's like a built-in editor. So to use this, do /mconfig, and Magic's got a lot of tab completion for the command, so if you're ever lost, just kind of start typing stuff and hopefully it will help you out. But what we want is the editor subcommand. And then we have a choice of what we want to make. You can make wands, mobs, spells, all kinds of stuff. I think we wanted to make a spell, right? Yeah?
That's what I was planning.
So do spell. And then I have to give it a name. It doesn't have to be the final name right now, but it's a little easier if it is. You could just say my new spell or whatever. But I think, did we have an idea for a spell? What was your idea?
My idea was it would give a random negative effect to the mob that you cast it on.
Or player.
Or player.
Ooh, PvP. All right, well, what would we call that? We already have a spell called Curse in the built-in configs. Otherwise, I would say that'd be a good name for it.
Yeah.
What about, like, Bane?
Not like
That's
that.
always a fun word.
That?
All right, yeah, and then hit Enter. And what Magic will do is it will create a web editor session for you. So this is going to be a web page that you have to go to. So you see there's a link in chat. If you hit the T button, you can actually click on that. And then it will warn you. Hopefully you trust me, so you can open this link. So yeah, hit yes. And then it'll go out of Minecraft and it'll go to this editor. It'll have a lot of instructions here that I urge you to read, but I think for our purposes, we're going to skip it. So just hit your escape key on your keyboard, and that will get rid of the tutorial. So the editor starts out with a sample spell. This spell will do some damage to whatever you target. You can see there's a lot of comments there explaining it, but again, for our purposes, since we're going to be explaining as we go along, let's get rid of those comments. There's a clean button up top. And if we're focusing on this, you might want to full screen it too, just so you're focused, because it looks nice, at least when recording. So let's walk through kind of what a spell looks like. We've got the name up top. That's the name you typed in the editor. The editor puts some creator information on there. Not real important, but it's kind of cool if you have a lot of different people making spells to be able to see who made what. And then the spell has a name. You can see this is just my new spell. So there's a difference between the name, which is right here. That's what players are going to see in-game when they get the spell or they cast the spell or want to buy it. Versus the thing you typed in, which is at the very top. That's what I call the key of the spell, the config key. So when you're adding it to a wand or you want to cast it with commands, you need to know that. I actually usually make those all lowercase. It's up to you, but when the other way around. So this is the one that you would see, and then that's the one I would make lowercase at the top there, yeah. Then we have a description. This says damage your target, but that's not what ours is going to do, right? So you might want to change that. That'll show in the lore of the spells, so when you hover over it with your mouse, that's what you'd see. It's kind of describing what the spell is going to do. So, you're going to die over here. I'll change it to day. P-E-N-E-N-T. Something like that. That's not actually right. We won't worry too much about the spelling right now. But, and the editor doesn't like you having spaces at the end. It's actually not a big problem, but it can make things a little weird. So try to get rid of any empty space at the end. So there we have an icon. You can use, for icons for spells, you can use any vanilla item, or if you delete the stick part there, the editor will suggest hit space. Yeah, it's a little laggy because it's got a lot of icons, but you can basically browse through all of the built-in spell icons, and it has nice little pictures to show you which ones. So I think for the purposes of us recording a video, you should maybe just pick one.
Yeah.
There, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that one will show as a black dye item for people that don't have the resource pack, or it'll be a cool icon for people that do. So now going down the list, we're at the actions section. The way spells work in Magic is you can combine these things that I call actions. Each action is supposed to do just one very specific thing. So obviously, what does this spell do?
This spell should randomly cast a negative effect on your opponent.
What is it doing now? What do the actions say?
Well, it's just damaging you.
Yeah, because it just has one damage action. So the layout of this is really important, but it looks a little weird. So we have actions that says what actions the spell can do. But spells can sometimes do more than one thing. Most often what you want it to do is something when you cast it. But some other options are you can have a different set of actions for when you're sneaking and you cast it. Or just some other spells do special things and have different sets of actions. But the cast is the most common one, and that's the one we'll be using here. So you can see cast class damage, so that's just going to do damage. Before we change that, let's just get through the rest of the spell so we can kind of understand all the parts of a spell. So we have effects. These mean like special effects, like sound and particles, usually. So you can see what this one is doing again on cast, and there are other triggers for effects that you can use besides cast, but cast is still the most common one. So we see that it's going to play at the target. That's what location means. And then we're going to use a special fancy effect. Magic has effect lib built in, which is a separate plugin that other plugins can use if they want to, too, to make fancy effects. So in this case, it's going to make a big sphere of particles. It's going to last 2,000 milliseconds. All the durations in Magic are in milliseconds, which is a thousandth of a second, right? So 2,000 is 2 seconds. And then it's going to make a sound. In this case, it's a special sound from the resource pack. You can use vanilla sounds there or resource pack sounds. And that's all the effects that it's going to do. And then parameters are things that you can tweak. So all the actions do something specific, but often have like parameters you can tweak. So like the damage action, how much damage is it going to do? You can put stuff like that in parameters. You can also put them with the actions specifically, but it's better to put them all in parameters, I think, so you can easily look at a spell and see kind of like how it's configured. It's also useful for if you make a wand, you can have the wand change things in parameters, or if you're using the /cast command, you can write parameters. So you could say /cast Bane space damage 5, and you could test out the spell with a different damage value. That only works if your damage value is in parameters. So back to our parameters. Well, one other thing I want to point out is this editor has a lot of built-in templates that you can use that kind of are good examples. So if you see there's a new button and then there's a little drop down by the new button, yeah, click on that. And you'll see there's some different options here. So for ours, there's really two main types of spells you might want to use. One is a projectile. So it's going to shoot a projectile at a specific target, and that would only hit one target. Another option is called an area of effect. So that would be like if you picture a big sphere of targeting. So if there's like a bunch of mobs or a bunch of players in one spot, it's going to like get them all if they're within range. So, but probably for us, projectile is a little simpler. We'll show how to use that. So switch this to a projectile spell. And you can see it kind of recreated the whole spell. It put comments back. So hit the clear button again to get rid of the comments. So what did this change? It changed a few things. In our actions now, we have a custom projectile. This is a special kind of projectile that is all just code in Magic. So it's not, in vanilla we have projectiles like arrows, fireballs. You can use those sorts of things, but this lets you kind of have the same kind of behavior, but without worrying about the vanilla projectiles. So you don't have to have an arrow, you don't have to have a fireball. It'll just shoot an invisible projectile that you can make visible with particles and stuff. This one still just does damage. And the effects now, we have a few other things. Oh yeah, sorry, you had to redo your whole thing. Yeah, that's no offense. I know, right? Sorry about that. I should have had you switch the template first. So, I guess word to the wise, switch your template first. We could have used the undo button and then copied and pasted it, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, right? Just whatever. Random. There we go. So let's look at the effects here real quick. This one still has a cast effect. but it is only doing a sound now. There's no particles that will happen because instead of having some sort of effect lib effect, what we're going to do is let the projectile sort of handle the particles. And that happens in two places. So you see down here under effects, there's cast, and then there's hit. The hit effects are going to be what plays when the projectile hits something. So without a projectile, it's kind of instant, right? So you cast the spell, and then it's instantly hitting whatever you're aiming at. So that's why the previous one, the cast effects, would work for that. If you did cast effects here, it would just happen when the projectile starts to fire. It wouldn't even have a target yet, so you couldn't necessarily have it show where it hits. But here, when it hits, it's going to do that same sphere for 2 seconds. But then additionally, there is this tick. And what tick means is, like, every time the server updates, it's called a tick. And there's 20 ticks per second generally. So when a projectile is flying, it's kind of ticking itself to move along. That's how it moves. And you can have it do some particles as it does that. So this one's just going to put some redstone particles as the projectile travels. And then the same sort of parameters. So should we test it out right now and just see kind of like what this does before we actually do anything? All right, so to test out something in game, you hit the save button. It will pop up a thing that says, please use this command. You can just click on the command and it will copy it to your clipboard. All right, and then switch back to Minecraft. And hit T, and then paste it, and then hit enter. Now we have to wait a second while things reload, and it says fine. So now we probably want to put this on your wand. If you have a testing wand like the Wolf Staff or the Uber wand, that's a good thing to use so you don't have to worry about costs and cooldowns and stuff. What I would do is go and open your spell inventory, and then hit E to get in your inventory. Take some spell out of there, just any one that you feel like you don't need. I'd keep super kills handy. Yeah, take damage out or something like that. All right, and then go out of here and do /wand, add, Bane, name of your spell. So what this will do is that'll add the spell that we just created to your wand. And you'll see it show up in that empty slot we made. That's why we made an empty slot, so that would be handily on your... I guess I'm the one that you get to test it out on. Okay. So yeah, cast it. I mean, let's see what it does. Ah, you missed. Ow.
No, I didn't.
So you see how it does their redstone particle effects. By default, they'll be colored to match whatever your selected wand color is. So that's why they're cyan, because that's the wolf staff color. Then you saw when it hits me, it did a lovely sphere of Black Death particles all around me. We'll probably want to tweak that because it's a bit much. But yeah, so it's working. We made a new spell. It's pretty simple. It's just a projectile that does some damage, and that's that. So let's flip back to the editor and let's make it do what you wanted it to do. All right, so now we probably want to change the actions. We like it as a projectile, so we're going to keep that part. But you wanted it to do, instead of damage, a random effect, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to where it says class damage, and we're going to change the damage class to something else. What you probably want, there's an action called random. And what the random action does is randomly choose from the set of something that it said and you clicked away. But basically, it's going to randomly pick from its list of actions. So actions in Magic can have other actions underneath them. So you see how there's custom projectile, and then under that it says actions. So when the projectile hits, it's going to do whatever actions are there in its actions list. And before it was just damage, and now it's going to be random. Random itself can have an actions list. So hit enter on that. And then actions will be the first thing it suggests. We want that. And then class. To do a status effect, it's called potion effect. Because in Minecraft, all of these effects normally are just from potions. But we can use them here for whatever we want, basically. So then hit enter. And we want to add some effects to the target, right? So we do that. And then basically you can pick whatever effect you want.
Okay. But can we do separate? Because I want it to be
Mm-hmm.
random. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we do the pick an amplifier of some kind, whatever you want. I don't know if it matters for blindness, does it? You're like more blind. I'm not sure. We'll pick whatever one you want. So now we've got it doing one thing, but you wanted it to do like pick from random things, right? So what you want to do, the easiest way is to actually copy that whole potion effect block. The whole thing there. Yeah, just copy that. And then we're going to paste it kind of in the same, like next to it, if that makes sense. So it's what we call a sibling in the list. So we've got one list there, yeah, and paste that there. And we might have to, fix the indentation a little bit. So that one needs to line up. with the other potion effect one, if that makes sense. Yeah, just like one more space. I think. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So you can see the editor actually tells you if it's right or not. I'm looking at your screen at a weird angle. So so now you have another one, so you can change blindness there to something else. I'm gonna try to keep you alive while you're editing because it keeps getting nighttime. I might have some more test subjects here. No, you make me hungry.
Yeah.
All right, maybe do one more, paste one more, and then we'll test this out. So by default, the random action is just gonna pick one of these randomly. Oh, look, you gotta fix the indentation on your potion effect there. Every time you paste it, it kind of gets a little weird, sadly. Yeah, it's fine. What about like confusion or
Confusion.
it's like the nausea effect?
Mm.
Do that. Yeah, there you go. And then it doesn't like this line, but I mean it's fine to have it there. It just yells at you when there's extra spaces for some reason. All right, let's try that. Save it, load it, and then I'll be your unlucky test subject again. All right, so now that you have your spell loaded, we can see if it does what it's supposed to do again. Help me! Would you miss? Oh. Didn't do nothing. Oh, wait. Ah, so it did it, but I think we're missing something. Do it again. Yeah, so you can see on my screen, it pops up for like a moment. So we are missing an important parameter that tells us how long the status effect is supposed to last, right? So by default, apparently it lasts a very short time. So let's go back to our editor. We'll fix that real quick. So in parameters, we actually can get rid of damage because we're not doing any damage anymore. And let's replace that with duration. Oops, you gotta like hit a couple spaces there, I think. I think I want it lined up. So everything in these configurations is really important that it lines up right. So you can see it's still not quite aligned once you pick the thing there. Don't do 10 minutes. No, not too many minutes. How about like, I don't know.
Maybe like
30 seconds?
30 of them.
Yeah, 30 seconds, okay. One more space there. All right, now save. And try it again. Now, technically, the command doesn't change, so you can hit up. Yeah, there you go. As long as you keep editing the same spell, the command never changes, so it might be easier when you're in the game to just hit the T button and then hit up to do your last command, and that should be easier. All right, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Tree.
You hit a tree?
Yeah.
Now I'm very hungry. I don't want to be hungry. I'm hungry and nauseous and blind all at once. Great. Just great. You look so weird. Ah. All right, so I think it works. Let's play with the effects a little bit because the ball of particles is a little obnoxious.
Yeah.
So switch back to your editor. And yeah, so here, instead of sphere, let's see what our other options are. Let's just change it to something else that might be cool. Atom is cool looking, if you want to try that. There, just try that, save that, and we'll see what it looks like. So you can kind of see, you can easily switch stuff and test it. Did you hit save?
I did, but it didn't do it.
And your turnaround times are pretty quick. It actually takes a little bit longer to load here on our test server because I have so many things. Gonna curse Mr. Gas. Get him. Get him! Oh, he's blind now, I'm sure. He can't tell me that. Alright, hit me so we can see the new effects, though.
Pretty!
Yeah, that's cool. However, I'm still blind. It's annoying.
Yeah.
I can't see anything! Where are you? Where are you? I punch you! I punch you!
No, you don't.
Oh.
I'm in my house now.
So let's say, just to round this out, oh, you're on your own because I can't see anything. Somebody blinded me. Seriously, don't feel like that. All right, we'll assume that you got him.
Yes,
I can see nothing. So let's do another quick thing that I think would be useful for people to see before we end this tutorial. But let's show how to make a wand that just has your spell on it.
Okay. That's it. Magic configure.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's wait. Don't go back. We're gonna start a new editor. So do /mconfig, and then editor, and then this time we're gonna make a wand. So do wand and then space. Let's call it Bane wand. Just because. All right, and then put that link. All right, so now again, it's got a nice template for a basic wand. It's got the creator. It has a name again, so you might want to change my new wand to Bane wand. We're not going to change the template this time, so you won't lose it. Basic wand for a basic wizard. There can be spaces in there. This is just the friendly name. And then the description could be whatever you want, but probably basic wand for basic wizard isn't quite right, but maybe just like something short. Bane. Okay, so one of the most important things here is the inherit line. There are a bunch of built-in like basic wand templates, because wands actually don't do anything. If you just make an empty wand with no configuration, it doesn't actually do anything. It won't do anything when you swing it. It won't do anything when you right-click it. It won't really work like you expect it to. So we have this template called base wand that sets up some common things that you might like casting on left-click. And if you have multiple spells that do the spell inventory on right-click, it will be undroppable. You'll keep it when you die. So it's all those sorts of common things. And unlike the survival wands, it's not bound to a class, so it works more like the wolf wand, where if you add a spell to it, it's actually on your wand. If you get rid of that wand, you don't have that spell anymore. It's not like it doesn't share it with other wands. It's actually on the wand item, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I think that's what we want for this. It's just going to be like if you wanted to hand out wands to people that just had a spell on it. They can't learn new spells with it. They can't, add to it. It doesn't grow. It's just an item for casting one or more spells. So we're going to keep with base wand. The icon there you can change if you want to something else. I think that by default is just the basic wand icon. But you can make it whatever you want. The sticks, like I would suggest maybe one of the stick wands, just because they look cool with the resource pack. But it can be anything you want. There you go. Take one of the blaze rods there. Just a regular blaze rod. That's fine.
Oh, I thought that.
That's fine. But the built-in wands the blaze rods tend to be the staffs, but I think I'd put both models on the stick and the blaze rod, so you can choose whichever one you want. So yeah, like the moon wand's cool. Let's do that one. All right. Now we're giving this wand mana. Interestingly enough, let's flip back to your spell for a minute, because that's actually something we should have talked about up there. This spell does not have any costs. Let's put some costs on there so that it costs some mana to cast. So all the way at the bottom, we're going to add a whole new section, like a main section, called costs. Oh, yeah, if you got to back up a minute, because it's actually not in parameters. There you go. It should be here. Weirdly, not suggesting it, but costs with an S, and then hit colon and enter. Is that lined up with parameters?
No.
But for costs, you can do experience or mana or any number of other things. Oh, that is not quite lined up. That's the problem. There we go. Hopefully. So let's do mana. And then hit a colon, and this is how much mana it's going to cost to cast this. So those are some weird suggestions, but let's do like 10. That's 10, and then you kind of can spam it. Do we want to be able to spam it as long as you have the mana, or should we put a cooldown on it?
I think cooldown.
Cooldown, okay. So that goes back in the parameter section. So under duration, hit enter, and then do cooldown. And then whatever you think. Normally, if a spell has an effect that lasts 30 seconds, I won't let them cast it again for 30 seconds. But that's up to you. You can let it stack. So if you say the cooldown is 10 seconds, they can, in theory, stack the effects on you because you can cast it again before the cooldown expires. But I would say just make it something short-ish, like 10 seconds for now, so that we can not get stuck not being able to cast it. All right, so let's go ahead and save that and load it real quick so we don't forget about those changes there. Yeah, I would grab the command just because you did something else now, and it will be X for editing two things at once now. So it's actually important to make sure you use the right command to load the thing you're trying to load, basically. All right, do that, and we can just flip right back to the editor if you want to finish our wand, I think. Because you're not going to be able to tell the changes using the wolf staff, because the wolf staff will bypass costs and cooldown, so basically no difference at all. All right, so back to here. The reason we did that is because I noticed this wand has some mana. So this one will start with 100 mana, and that's the maximum amount of mana it can have, and it'll regenerate 10 mana per second. So that'll be more than enough to cast this spell. Probably the mana won't even matter, honestly, because it only costs 10. But it'll be a good example of how this works. So here we have Path. That is what actually will let the wand progress. So that will be the same as the Survival wand. It'll start out on the beginner path. So you could use this wand at an enchantment table to learn new spells, just like with the basic wand. The difference is that the spells here will be going to the wand item. If you were to lose this wand, all your progress is gone, which is actually how magic used to work before we had the class system, and I think we like it a lot better with the classes. But for this, we don't want that, right? We just want this to have the one spell that they have, and that's the only spell this wand can use, so just get rid of that whole line path completely. Yeah, there's a lot of paths, so we have all the configs here. And then finally, spells is the list of spells it has. So I think we just want it to have one spell, right? So yeah, get rid of that whole list. Put your spell on there. And it should actually know about it, I think. Yeah. So whenever you start up the editor, your server actually sends a bunch of information to our LMaker's web server about what spells you have, what sort of currencies, what wands, all that stuff, so that when all these things pop up to complete, it actually knows about your specific server setup. So this isn't specific to the survival configurations. If you have a totally custom config, it's going to show all of your spells that you've got when you're making a wand. So it's kind of handy that way. So that should be it for our wand. Let's save it and let's see if it works. I want one. We're gonna have a Bane wand fight.
No.
Yeah. As soon as it's saved, I'm getting it.
I do want to make some changes to the Bane spell, though.
Okay, we'll go back and do that. I like that. And then as soon as that's loaded, you get items in Magic with the mgive command. So it works a lot like the vanilla give command, but it's a little more flexible and can give magic items, which are not really obtainable with the vanilla command. So you do mgive and then Bane, and Bane wand, right? If you did Bane, it would actually just give you the spell, which would be nice if you want to like put it on your wand or something. Hello, now I have a Bane wand. And you die.
You're hungry.
I'm hungry. I don't want to be hungry. And now it's on cooldown, presumably?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I missed you. Oh, nauseous and hungry. That's no fun. It's no fun to be nauseous. So it works. So now we have a wand with your custom spell on it, and you could give these out to players. You could put them in shops or whatever you want. So it's very easy to make special wands that people can buy that have special spells on them if that's how you'd like your server to work. So I think you had some changes to your spell you want to make. We could do that and I think wrap this up. You can also edit one of the built-in spells. I'll actually show that while she's working on this. I'm going to do mconfig editor spell missile. And this will edit the magic missile spell you start off with in survival. I like magic missile because, as you can see, I documented it like crazy. So there's comments in here, these lines that are colored differently and start with this hashtag sign are comments, and they explain every little bit of what the spell does. So if you're curious how like a really complete spell works, what all this means, I really suggest you just edit the missile spell. You don't have to change it. You can also do, my missile, let's say, for testing, if you wanted to change any of this stuff. So go in here and say, damage. I would also like it to maybe slow the target. So we'll do like a slow 3. And just see how that works. And a lot of people don't like that magic missile breaks blocks, so if you wanted to, you just do this. Just delete it. It doesn't break blocks anymore. Now you can save that as your magic missile if you wanted to and replace the one you have on your server. You can change the effects. You can really customize anything. So TheBugWhisperer finished her spell. She added a bunch of new different status effects to it. I have my Missile 2 spell. Okay. Yeah. Oh, now I'm super slow.
So slow. Wait,
Yeah. Oh no.
Bye.
Oh no. Well, that's a little OP.
Bye.
I'm going to die.
Most certainly.
Oh, that's fun. I got an achievement at least.
Goodbye.
Oh, look at that. I can aim for the swamp. I'll be fine, right? How much time do I have here? Oh, 9 seconds. There, I'll be good. I'm going to land in the swamp. So one other thing I wanted to show is this wand that we made that just has the one spell. You can add spells to it. So let's see. Wand add blast. Hey, I survived. And now that it has more than one spell, you can right-click, open the spell inventory, and you'll see that the spell is there now. We have blast as well as the my missile that I made, which, wait, should slow you. Are you slow? You're not slow.
Oh, I'm holding it open.
Yeah, let go of that. Can't hit you when you have it. There we go.
That made me slow for like 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, I forgot to put a duration on it. Same mistake twice, people. Learn from your mistakes. But yeah, so once you have that wand made, you can actually add spells to it in-game that won't affect the wand itself. So if I do mgive Bane Wand again, you can see this one does not have spells on it. I'm hitting right-click. Does not have spells. But this one that I added spells to does. So when you add spells to a wand, it's just changing that one item in the world. It's not changing the configuration of the wand. You have to use the editor or edit the config files to do that. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. We had a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what sort of spells you are all able to come with. I did not know I was up in the air because I was blinded, and I'm dead. The end.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.